Flight 229, you're clear for takeoff.
Just like a flight plan, you have to know where you're going and how you will get there when you plan for retirement. Let Ryan Fleming help you chart out a course for your retirement with his intimate knowledge of financial planning and the airline industry. It's time for the Pilot's Advisor.
So believe it or not, we've had many of our clients and listeners request to hear from Lee Hyder again. And I don't know if we're going to have to call this bit listening to Lee or hearing from Hyder or whatever. But we have a very special guest on our show today just to kind of catch up and see how things are going. Lee Hyder, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a sad commentary when your clients or probably anybody longs to hear me on the radio again.
Well, I don't know about that, Lee. I always enjoy the perspective you put things in and some of the ways you explain things to me. And it's always been good conversation. So I appreciate having you back on the show. Good.
It's good to be here.
Well, I would go into, how you've been up there on the lake and everything, but it's been winter time and slowly probably starting to thaw out. So I've been in touch with you. I'm just glad you guys survived another winter.
Yeah, it's amazing, for some of your listeners that may, have a much better view out of their windows than we've had a couple of weeks ago. We had a monumental storm. Probably about 2 weeks ago, we had sub-degree weather. I actually had my brand new snowblower, was working overtime. And 2 weeks later, it feels like even though the temperatures are hovering in the, mid 40s, occasionally 50s, based upon what we had a couple weeks ago, it feels like we are deep in the middle of summer.
Well, I certainly hope so. I did grow up in Ohio, so I know that can just be a little teaser per se, and it'll be snowing next week. But for your sake, I certainly hope so. You have a beautiful lake house up there on Lake Erie.
Yeah, we are pretty lucky. And you're right. What they say in Ohio is if you don't like the weather, just wait a few minutes, and it does change really that quickly. Kind of like the stock market. The stock market can all of a sudden be on a pretty strong, smooth trajectory. And, you may just catch a bad headline or something in the news, and all of a sudden things changed overnight.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Lee. What I wanted to talk to you about today was, of course, last year we had this huge market crash with the coronavirus. And then since March, you could have picked any stock. And it doesn't matter what you picked or invested in. It's been crazy up ever since. And what I'm starting to see with many of the pilots out there, I really feel like so many people are speculating and gambling with their whole retirements. And I'm talking literally stock picking where they have 10 to 20% of their whole retirement in one individual stock, whether that's a tech stock or, Boeing or some other random, company that all these people are talking about. And it just really, really scares me because I don't think they have any clue how much risk they're taking on. I don't think they even understand the term standard deviation, and it's a recipe for disaster.
It's interesting you bring that up because even though anybody who has any money in the stock market today really has to be very, very pleased with their returns. When you take a look at last year, I kind of use a date as a reference point. I think roughly March 20th was pretty much the low point of last year. And, we had portfolios that were down at that point, 20, 25, 30%, even more. And if an investor panicked at that particular point, when you, speed the tape forward to the end of the year, those same investors that may have been down as much as 30%, very possibly at the end of 2020, could have had a positive 10% return, which really means they had a 30% swing in that portfolio in a 12-month period, not even in a 12-month period of time. And the danger is today, as they say, a rising tide will raise all ships. And I think people are feeling invincible in the market. They're seeing how the S&P is doing incredible, how the domestic portfolios are really doing fantastic. And I think, to echo what you said, people are very quick today to kind of make some very dangerous mistakes chasing returns.
Well, not only chasing returns, but there's a lot of the biases that we talk about, confirmation bias, recency bias. And if I really feel like I have my hand on the pulse of the whole pilot community, getting to hear them in the cockpit or the crew room, and they're all talking about their wins and what stock they picked, and this biotech or this big tech stock or this, it is nonstop. And sadly, a lot of them are chasing returns, huge returns that have already happened. And now they're buying in, they're liquidating the long-term picture, a long-term engineered portfolio that's based off of academic research. And, what I've seen is I think that these pilots are playing on the side, doing some of these stock picking. They're starting to go, hey, I think I got this. I think I can do this on my own. And you know how crazy and ludicrous it would be to take a $1 or $2 million portfolio and stock pick 10 stocks and hope for the best.
It's interesting you say that, because in one of the chapters of my book that I've written numerous books, as you're aware of, we talk about investing is really more than simply going down the shopping aisle of investment choices and putting in your cart everything that appears to be doing very, very well today. And you're right. People do not, obviously investors, do not really understand the dangers of investing and how quickly what seems to make sense really does not. And the big challenge for virtually everybody is, you've got a podcast and you reach out and you do an incredible job communicating with your clients, but at best, you own maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of their time. What you don't own, and this is the danger that every investor needs to be aware of, is, the TV, the radio, the internet, their well-intentioned friends. People are just getting bombarded 24/7 today with information. And even the most disciplined investor, if you're not careful, that will kind of creep into your mindset and very possibly, help you make some very dangerous and inappropriate decisions with your portfolio, chasing what everybody's talking about on TV or the radio today.
Have you ever wanted to learn more about the academic approach to investing and saving and planning for retirement that Ryan talks about here on The Pilot's Advisor? Well, if so, go visit pilotsadvisor.com. pilotsadvisor.com. You can watch a quick webinar on the academic approach to investing. It'll show you how not to speculate and gamble with your money. It's all based on Nobel Prize winning research. Only takes about 10 minutes to get through the video and watch it. Going to be worth your time, I promise you. Go check it out right now, pilotsadvisor.com. It's a webinar that covers that academic approach to investing. pilotsadvisor.com. All right, back to the show.
And it's very heartbreaking because I can personally attest that I had two clients recently that I really thought got it, that we've really talked about the long-term picture. They knew the academics behind, portfolio design, the engineering, how it's backed up by Nobel Prize winning research. But yet, because of the community, because of what's going on right now, because of all these pilots playing on the side and talking about their huge wins, it's hard not to get drawn towards that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I kind of refer to something that, Mike Tyson said once. And, I'm constantly surprised that I go back to a quote that Mike said, but it really makes a lot of sense. Everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face. And I think that's what really happens with investors is, they've got maybe a plan of what they want to do. And then they get hit in the face, either where the market has experienced a lot of volatility and they panic, or that hitting in the face can also be the other side of the coin, that the market is doing so well, but because they are, maybe diversified at this particular time, they may not be, receiving what the return is in the S&P. And the truth is they shouldn't be, because they're diversified. I mean, the only people that actually get the S&P returns, ironically enough, are people that have all their money in the S&P, and that would be ludicrous. But that's sadly sometimes the benchmark that people use, and they don't really understand the dangers of that.
Well, and greed sets in, and it's so heartbreaking for me because I know there's a lot of individuals out there, friends, crew members that I know are going to really, really hurt themselves through this because, there is going to be a turn. And I do think that people are going to get punched in the mouth. The story I try to tell is it's so much better. If you want to win championships and win in retirement, you want to consistently hit singles and doubles. And right now we have too many people going up there and swinging for the fences, and a couple of them are going to hit home runs, but most of them are going to strike out.
You don't win a World Series or even get to the World Series by simply having the best home run hitters on your team. I mean, you need defense, you need good pitching, you need a good shortstop, you need a full team. It's interesting. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I do think I read somewhere, it was a study. I do know I read the study, but I'm not sure if it was attributed to Fidelity or another organization. But what they said was they did a long time analysis of their portfolio returns and actually the investors that had the portfolios And the interesting finding of the study was the people that actually performed best were people that actually forgot about even having that particular investment and ultimately let it ride through good times and bad times. And I think that's really what investors need to understand is that if you have from the very beginning the properly built, totally diversified portfolio that's not just domestically based, that's internationally built as well, that has uncorrelated assets, which means everything doesn't move at the same way at the same time. If you have that, you really can withstand not only the ups of the market, of course, which we all can tolerate, but the downs at the same time. And the investor needs to understand that just because you lose money in a portfolio because of the volatility, it doesn't mean there's anything a matter with the portfolio. It's just going through the season, just like trees. The leaves fall off, but nobody cuts down the trees. They wait for the next season.
Well, hey there. We hope you're enjoying listening to the Pilot's Advisor today. Just wanted to take a quick moment from the show to remind you that if you have any questions ever about what Ryan talks about on the program, need any assistance with your financial planning, need some guidance to get to and through retirement, or whatever financial questions might be on your mind, don't ever hesitate to reach out. The simple way to get in touch with Ryan is to pick up the phone and call or text 843-475-3038. Again, that's 843-475-3038. You can also find Ryan online at FlemingFG.com. That's FlemingFG.com. And as always, we put contact information to get in touch with Ryan in the description or the show notes section of the program. So just check it out on whatever app you're using, and it's easy to get in touch with Ryan. All right, now back to the show.
Well, Lee, that's some great points. And you guys use the exact same academic approach. Your firm uses the exact same academic approach that we do here at the Fleming Financial Group and the Pilot's Advisor. Now, how would you handle, or how do you handle the clients that you could see are starting to stray a little bit, start playing on the side, starting to talk about some of these, individual stocks, wanting to chase returns? Because we both know that a globally diversified, engineered portfolio, passive for the long term with 30,000 different positions is the right way to go. 10 hot stocks that I just picked up last week is not the way to go.
Right. What I've found that has kind of been my saving grace. And if you talk about maybe, the perfect client, number one, I believe the client needs to be working with you from the very beginning for the right reasons. Not because your fees may or may not be less, and not because you happen to have a higher return than they had last year. I really base it, number one, primarily on a client understanding the world we live in. And what I mean by that is just understanding where returns come from. I mean, do stock market returns really, do they come from some supernatural advisor or broker that kind of makes you feel like he knows tomorrow's headlines today? Or do returns really come from the market? And what I mean by the market is just not the S&P 500, but by really understanding returns come from a globally invested portfolio that spans the world, from large U.S. stocks to small, micro, very, very small companies. So I believe, number one, the client needs to first, before they make any decision whatsoever, they need to really make a decision first, and that is, where do returns come from? And if you believe returns come from the market, then you would obviously, I would hope, also believe that it makes so much more sense to have a diversified portfolio than simply chasing one or two individually hot stocks that may be doing well today. And I think if you start the client off right, and if you have continual conversations, and I applaud the way you communicate and attempt to educate your clients from time to time with podcasts and other educational materials you put out, I believe that goes a long, long way.
Well, it's definitely heartbreaking. And I think you brought up a very good point earlier. When you have everywhere on the TV, on the internet, social media, I mean, there's so much information and it's actually engineered to almost brainwash these investors to change what they're doing. And you truly have to be very, very disciplined and take a very unemotional approach to your investing to stay disciplined.
This may surprise some of their listeners, your listeners, but I will tell you the absolute truth. I have not opened up a investment statement for my personal investments, honestly, in over a year. I don't look on the day-to-day. I know when I built my portfolio, a long time ago, it was diversified. I know what I needed in my portfolio. and I put those asset categories and allocations at the level that I felt was appropriate for me. And just because we've gone through, different times in the economy, the foundation of what I have remains the same. So I take advantage of rebalancing, and that is so critical. So many investors have no idea the importance of rebalancing. And I'm not rebalancing simply to chase a return. I'm rebalancing to be sure that my allocation does not drift. And so ultimately, if you build the right portfolio from the beginning, if you, tweak it from time to time when necessary, and if you have a systematic process to rebalance, you'll be in great shape. And hopefully your listeners will have the same comfort in their portfolio like I have in my portfolio, that eliminates the need for me to be looking at TV, eliminate the need for me to be looking at my statement, every 30 days.
Well, and absolutely. And the thing I think about rebalancing all the time is selling what's high and buying what's low. We all know we should do it. We all know that we should sell what's high and buy what's low, but investors just don't do it. You're listening to Lee here on Lake Erie. Lee, we want to thank you for being on the show today. We always appreciate, talking about certain issues, getting your perspective on things. And please come on some shows a little bit more in the future.
I'll look forward to you guys. Stay well out there and enjoy what appears to be a summer that's roaring down the highway towards us.
Thanks a lot, Lee. Have a great weekend.
Stay well.
You've been listening to The Pilot's Advisor, featuring Ryan Fleming, a financial advisor at Fleming Financial Group, serving clients worldwide, but based out of Charleston, South Carolina. If you have any questions for Ryan on what we've talked about on today's show, maybe a future topic idea, or want to talk more about getting a complimentary review of your financial plan, here's the best ways to get in touch. You can go online to the website FlemingFG.com. That's FlemingFG.com. You can also email Ryan. It's simply ryan@FlemingFG.com. Or you can call or text to get in touch. 843-475-3038 is the number. That's 843-475-3038. Thanks for listening to The Pilot's Advisor, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting apps. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and many more locations. So whatever app you like to use, search for The Pilot's Advisor podcast today and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.